Whoopsie, microphone. Haha, that's much better. Come, let us explore the compassion secret I wish I learned years ago. Together, let us relaxingly recite. In late-stage capitalism, there are many who have a vested interest in keeping us locked in the frenzy of various iterations of the kill or be killed mindset. Come, let us wax subversive, for although the United Nations explained it would take $6 billion to end world hunger, compassion is not an exclusive club with an entry fee or a 2-drink minimum. In fact, some of the most compassionate things we could do merely involve our consumer choices. 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path is comprised of loves. Kindness of intention, kindness of communication, kindness of conduct, and kindness of commerce. However, I think I want to change that. Okay, let's try it again. 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path is comprised of mental kindness, of intention, the interpersonal kindness of communication, the physical kindness of conduct, and, did it again, the circumstantial kindness of commerce. Thank you for your patience. Let's continue. However, there is nothing kind about using our consumer choices to coerce an underpaid worker, to exploit, no less slaughter living beings because we want a snack. On average, worldwide, every day, a vast ocean of sentient beings are murdered. This is tricky editing. More than 900,000 cows, 1,400,000 goats, 1,700,000 sheep, 3,800,000 pigs, 12 million ducks, 202 million chickens, and hundreds of millions of fish, each of them yearning to live and not die, just like us. Through the convenience of a cruelty-free diet, we get to exercise greater compassion to the environment, to non-human animals, and if we consume a whole food vegan diet, to this very body which supports our meditation. And even though we could watch the video Dominion and 101 other videos that could pull at our heartstrings, remember we are already wired to love. Every time we put a rabbit and an apple in a playpen, the human child always pets the rabbit and eats the apple. We are natural-born herbivores. It is only our amygdala that makes us aggressive. And the more we authentically practice, now this is where I want to enter a graphic, so please bear with me. Okay, I'm going to hit insert and pictures and device and pictures again and looking for N for neuroscience, and now I'm looking for the amygdala. There it is. Let's hit insert, no, wrap text behind text. Okay. Okay, here we go. It is only our amygdala that makes us aggressive. And the more we authentically practice mindfulness and meditation, even as little as once every 12 hours or so, the more we'll calm the anxiety and aggression of our survival-oriented amygdala and stimulate the empathy of our anterior cingulate gyrus. This is where the Buddha taught mindfulness and meditation. Having completed our opening lesson, it's time to shift gears. It is General Leo Organa Saturday evening. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. After approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping, gotta adjust this bad boy. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus to spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I could become your nerdy, neurodivergent guide to Nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. We turn now to the latest iteration of our meditation guide, or sadhana, if you're nasty. Please relaxingly recite with me. Whatever comes, may all beings notice, relax, and flow. Whatever stays, may all beings notice, relax, and flow. Whatever goes, may all beings notice, relax, and flow. Upon the tip of our left little finger, we could rest the great knuckle of our right little finger, palms up, in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to automatically coalesce at the bladder region of our lower abdomen. Let us review mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to automatically access the sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. This bad boy has evolved to help us to notice in a very special way. To help us notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly, which is the polar opposite of the rigidity of concentration. Now let us review meditation. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to automatically access our parasympathetic nervous system, divided between the lower third as well as the upper third of that same spinal cord. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to help us to both physically relax as well as mentally release. Therefore, during each inhalation, may we silently and mentally recite noticing, and during each exhalation, may we silently and mentally recite relaxing. Let's relaxingly recite an excerpt from the vast expanse of the diamond-like mind, composed approximately 14 centuries ago by Prahevajra, translated from the Tibetan by Chokyo Nomkai Norbu, translated from the Italian by Adriano Clemente, adapted and amplified by yours truly. Together, let us relaxingly recite 4 repetitions. This path, equally available to all, that I forgot a verb. This is the path, equally available to all, that naturally abides in all beings. But since ordinary people are defiled by delusions, we are like doctors seeking medicine. What does this mean? The Buddha did not invent the idea of meditation, but he taught a unique form of meditation. A form of meditation that was neither concentration nor contemplation, but that was very, very easy, and that in which people simply cooperated with their sympathetic nervous system during each inhalation to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly, and in which people cooperated with their parasympathetic nervous system during each exhalation to physically relax and mentally release. And the great irony is that this, the simplest and easiest of all forms of meditation, is the most efficient. This method that the Buddha taught, using this method that the Buddha taught, one can master the Buddha's path of enlightenment in as little as a week. Now, when we read that ordinary people are defiled by delusions, what does that mean? Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, including humans. Most of us are raised in cultures, including myself, where we are not only taught to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, cryptic, elitist, competitive, and cruel, but we were told to actively denigrate those who would dare to be flexible, loving, rational, laid back, lucid, egalitarian, cooperative, and kind. Yet it, yet it is the Buddha who taught that the path of rigidity is the path of defilement, and the path of flexibility is the path of purity. Therefore, those of us who are traversing this path of purity are like the doctor, seeking the right medicine to apply to others. That medicine is none other than simply noticing and relaxing in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation. Please continue reciting with me. This is the path, equally available to all, that naturally abides in all beings. But since ordinary people are defiled by delusions, we are like doctors seeking medicine. Ordinary people are taught to fight their central nervous system instead of cooperate with it. Let us continue. This is the path, equally available to all, that naturally abides in all beings. But since ordinary people are defiled by delusions, we are like doctors seeking medicine. Now, not everybody who claims to be able to heal us can heal us. Not everybody who claims to want to help us actually wants to help us. There are, just as Melisandre told us in The Game of Thrones, the night is dark and full of terrors. Likewise, the ocean is full of predators who wish to gobble us up. How are we to know a fool from a fiend? Simple. Follow their advice for 1 week. If someone gives you a technique and you apply it for 5 minutes every 12 hours or so, by the end of 7 days, you can evaluate, hey, is this making me more peaceful or less peaceful? Is this making me more loving or less loving? And based on the efficacy of their teachings, we can decide whether to rely on that teacher or to find a better one. It's just that simple. Let's continue. This is the path equally available to all, that naturally abides in all beings. But since ordinary people are defiled by delusions, we are like doctors seeking medicine. Upon the tip of our left ring finger, we could rest the great knuckle at the base of our right ring finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to automatically coalesce at the navel region of our mid-abdomen. So by way of review, let us review mindfulness. Every time we inhale, our sympathetic nervous system has evolved to help us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. Let's review meditation. Every time we exhale, our parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. Therefore, during each inhalation, may we silently and mentally recite noticing, and during each exhalation, may we silently and mentally recite relaxing. Together, let us relaxingly recite 4 repetitions of this 46th passage. In the domain of understanding is total bliss. Once again, I don't agree with the translator's choice, so I'm going to use a synonym. Let's make sure it fits on the page. Good. In the domain of understanding is complete bliss. This itself is like a Buddha's real or imagined, utterly pure land, or vati. When light coalesces from all sides, the 4 directions, the intermediate ones, and those above and below are produced. Every time we relax into our exhalation, we train our body and mind in the wisdom of letting go, which can be quite delightful. What follows inevitably after every exhalation is the next inhalation, unless, of course, we are dead. Every time we physically inhale, our oxygen coalesces within our lungs if everything goes correctly. And that's a wonderful metaphor for the way that information floods our mind. What type of information? Sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, but also emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. And so as we breathe in, we gain at least a fleeting, passive, vulnerable awareness of our circumstances. And during the next exhalation, we will let go of it again. When light coalesces from all sides, the 4 directions, intermediate ones, and those below, above and below are produced. In the domain of understanding is complete bliss. That itself is like a Buddha's real or imagined utterly pure land, or vati. I'd like to explain that for you for a moment. So if there was, let's play with the idea, the mythology, if you will, the metaphor of a Buddha's paradise, comprised entirely of light. Now, just as a rainbow is appearing yet non-graspable, similarly, so would the metaphor of a Buddha's paradise be appearing yet non-graspable. As we breathe in, we experience appearance. As we breathe out, we experience non-graspability, no matter how fleeting it might be. This is nothing new. In the Buddha's original teachings, or the original teachings attributed to the Buddha, he spoke of 7 enlightenment factors. The first enlightenment factor is mindfulness. Let me do my math real quick. The 4th, the 5th, the 6th enlightenment factor is coalescence. They are synonymous. When do we experience mindfulness? When our breath coalesces in our lungs. The 5th enlightenment factor is tranquility, the peace we are wired to experience every time we relax into our exhalation. And so by looking at the fifth and the sixth enlightenment factors, we see awareness and release. In the history of any spiritual path, there is a time when people are adhering to the original teachings, and a time when people get very creative and wander off. And then, just like the opening and closing of an umbrella, and invariably in any spiritual tradition, there will be those who act as reformers and call people back to the original path, and then eventually folks will wander off again. Similarly, that has occurred in Buddhism. A great reformer of Buddhism many, many centuries ago was the South Indian philosopher Nagarjuna, who taught that there are two truths. There is the conventional truth that we perceive as we breathe in, and the ultimate truth that we experience as we relax into our exhalation. Just as a bird requires both its wings to take to the skies, similarly, a Buddhist yogi requires both the awareness during our inhalation and the release during our exhalation to master nirvana. No less, live. I mean, if you only inhale and never exhale, you're going to die. If you only exhale and never inhale, you're going to die. Now, we're all going to die, but much more quickly if we only stop, if we interrupt our cycle of breath in perpetuity. And just as that is completely absurd, so are people who say, I'm too spiritual to notice things. I don't recognize dualities. Oh, really? You don't recognize dualities? You can't tell the difference between dog dew and chocolate? Well, if that's the case, you don't get to make me dessert. Yikes. Let's continue. In the domain of understanding is complete bliss. That itself is like a Buddha's real or imagined, utterly pure land or vati. When light coalesces from all sides, it can seem that the four directions, the intermediate ones, and those above and below are produced. Upon the tip of our left middle finger, it looks faintly obscene, does it not? We could rest the great knuckle of our right middle finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so, we could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to automatically coalesce in the heart region of our chest. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. There's a wonderful YouTube creator, Caitlin Doty, I think is her name. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it. And she will often use the phrase in tongue-in-cheek, salacious. So that's the phrase that came to mind. So how's about a quick review of mindfulness? Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, our sympathetic nervous system is wired to help us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, fleetingly notice all manner of phenomena, from the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque. Now let us review meditation. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, our parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to help us to physically relax as well as mentally release. Therefore, during each inhalation, may we silently and mentally recite noticing, and during each exhalation, may we silently and mentally recite relaxing. We come now to the final relaxing recitation of the evening, so let's make the most of these 4 recitations. From the subtle spectrum of the rainbow-like features of the 5 Buddha families seem to manifest elements, perceptions, aggregates, and mental poisons. And likewise, the moving features and the unmoving environment are superior to the analysis of minutiae of the 5 elements and the like. In other words, as we breathe in, we can notice all manner of things. Now we can concentrate actively, or we can merely notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, fleetingly. The second way is the superior way. Similarly, in response to our perceptions, we can actively analyze, or we can physically relax and mentally release. Once again, the second choice is the superior one. Let us recite again. From the subtle spectrum of the rainbow-like features of the 5 Buddha families, there seems to manifest elements, perceptions, aggregates, and mental poisons. Excellent. Okay, thank you for your patience. And likewise, the moving features and unmoving environment are superior to the analysis of minutiae of the 5 elements and the like. From the subtle spectrum of the rainbow-like features of the 5 Buddha families, there seems to manifest elements, perceptions, aggregates, and mental poisons. And likewise, the moving features and unmoving environment are superior to the analysis of the 5 elements and the like. From the subtle spectrum of the rainbow-like features of the 5 Buddha families, there seems to manifest elements, perceptions, aggregates, and mental poisons. Let's make sure this fits okay on the screen. And likewise, the spontaneous awareness and release of the moving features and unmoving environment are superior to the analysis of minutiae of the 5 elements and the like. From the subtle spectrum of the rainbow-like features of the 5 Buddha families, there seems to manifest elements, perceptions, aggregates, and mental poisons. And likewise, the spontaneous awareness and release of the moving features and unmoving environment are superior. To the analysis of the minutiae of the five elements and the like. Upon the tip of our left index finger, that we could rest the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to automatically coalesce at the crown region of our head. Let us review how mindfulness works. Every time we inhale, our sympathetic nervous system helps us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice all manner of dualities. Dreads and desires, dangers and safeties, scarcity and abundance, pain and pleasure, scorn and praise, shame and fame. Now let us review mindfulness. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, our parasympathetic nervous system helps us to physically relax and mentally release the tyranny of those same dualities. Therefore, during each inhalation, let us silently and mentally recite noticing, and during each exhalation, let us silently and mentally recite relaxing. Excuse me. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 13 hours, I would very much like to return to tomorrow's morning meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.